Welcome to the Tansson Talk Show. I'm Brandon K. Hedgepeth, the host and creator of the show, and I'm so glad and honored to be here today. Continuing on our mission to bring people together, I'm very excited to be kicking off this spring season of our show with the one and only Maxwell LeVan. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited. I'm honored to be the first one of the season. That's very cool. Um,
Yeah, I am so honored to have you back on, and this is the third time overall that we've had a chance to speak.
yes, sir. I'm back. I appreciate again. Yeah, just thank you for having me. It's been a while, but it's nice to talk to you again.
Yes, it's nice to speak with you as well. And yes, before we get started, I first of all want to ask, how are you doing thus far in 2024?
I'm doing great. I'm blessed to see another year. Got some cool things planned for this year, so I just can't wait to just keep it going.
That is amazing. Yeah, the last time we had a chance to speak, recording wise, was December 2022. So it has been a moment.
I know that is crazy. How have you been? How's your year been?
Yeah, my year has been going well. I've been having a great time, finishing up my master's program right now. And I've been loving everything I've been doing with this podcast. I'm so excited to be back here for 2024.
There you go. That's good.
Yeah, and if we can go ahead and get started by allowing a moment for you to go ahead and reintroduce yourself, Max, for those who may be watching or listening here today.
Of course, yeah. So my name is Max or Maxwell LeVan. I'm 20 years old. I'm a singer-songwriter, record producer. I've just done a little bit of everything. I used to do YouTube videos, card magic, a little just here and there. And yeah, I'm just working on some new music and very excited about it and excited to talk about it. And yeah, again, thank you for having me, man.
Of course, the pleasure is all mine. And so, yeah, I guess I wanted to actually start off by going back a little bit. So, of course, like I said before, we had last spoken in December 2022 for a special interview that we had go out a few months later. But I know during that discussion, you mentioned that 2023 was going to be the big year for you. And so, how did that year treat you?
I think the year lived up to the expectation I had set for it. It might have even surpassed it. It was a great year. I only put out 3 songs that year, but they were all received well and they were all different in their own way and just kind of allowed me to expand and just get some more people that had never heard of me before or heard my music. So it was very exciting. Um, my goal was to make some more YouTube videos last year, and I kind of fell on my face with that. Didn't do that at all. I actually filmed one, but then I just never got around to posting it. So that kind of was unfortunate. But overall, it was a great year. Yeah, and it went according to plan.
I'm so glad to hear that it went according to plan. And so I know over these past several years that that you've been doing a lot of work from your producer reacts videos on on YouTube to your newest singles that have been coming out. Yeah, of course, among many other things. And so overall, how would you describe 2023 in comparison to some of the previous years of your work?
Well, like I was telling you before we went on, that I was a little bit upset with myself because I had put out an EP in 2021 and then I put out some singles and my first full album in 2022. And so then I went into 2023 with sort of an expectation for myself set that I got to put a project out this year. I got to just live in the studio and just really get it out. But 2023, I kind of had some songs that I had already recorded and felt good about and took a step back and kind of just enjoyed life and tried to just do different things while still putting out music a little bit, but not spending as much time writing and recording. And so I would say that it compares positively because I had some experiences that I wouldn't have had if I was working all the time. Not to really call it work because it doesn't really feel like work, but I think it was one of the better ones so far because I still was able to again do what I love to do, but also not have the pressure, the self-diagnosed pressure to put out an album every single year. But this year I am putting that pressure on myself, so there will be an album this year.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that you'll have another album coming out for this year, 2024. But But I like that you've been able to take a step back for yourself and to focus on yourself a little bit more. And so, like, how did this change of mindset come about for you? And is this a little bit of mindfulness something that you want to continue for years forward?
Yes and no, I would say, because there were certain times where I was just distracted or just, being 19, 20 for a few months and not really thinking about um, how I wanted to be different than any other 19, 20 year old, if that makes any sense. Like the complacency and the lack of pressure on myself was nice because obviously who doesn't like being lazy for a couple months? So mentally I felt great, but then kind of on the other side of that, it was just I didn't feel like I was doing enough, and I was like, I'm gonna be stagnant and just be here forever if I don't, you know, make myself different than everybody else. So it's been a roller coaster, but I do think that I want to find a better balance this year with it.
Yeah, I definitely, even for myself, I definitely have always, done my best to try to strike a balance with everything. And it doesn't always come to plan, sometimes completely far from the plan. But
Yeah,
nevertheless, though, I think it definitely is important to at least take that time for yourself because, as much as we hate to say it sometimes, if you don't take the time will take you.
absolutely. That's very true. Yeah, I don't want to not let myself have any fun because I'm so busy trying to make a name for myself. But I also don't want to never make a name for myself because I'm too busy having fun. So it is definitely a weird crossroads that I was at. I think I've figured it all out now. Not figured it all out, but that aspect of it I've sort of gotten a better grasp on. And I hope to execute that as planned this year.
I love that. And before we, head into some of your plans for this year's slate of, content and ambitions. So during that time that, you were having a little bit more downtime, like what were you occupying yourself with during 2023 when you were not working on one of your mini your free singles that came out?
I mean, I kind of embarrassingly wasn't doing that much. I moved out. I got a new place. I got an apartment. So I've just been hanging out with the cat and doing my thing. I mean, I have been writing. I can't really help but write songs, but I haven't been taking them to the studio and spending hours on them and getting them all polished like that. But I don't know where all the time went, to be honest. If I can't even really recap everything that I occupied my time with the past year. But a lot of traveling. Like went out of state a lot, went on some nice trips, and just kind of allowed myself to chill out in a way that I hadn't for 3 4 years before that. So it was nice, and I feel like I don't know, just a lot of things happened last year that helped me grow as a person mentally and just maturity and just everything. And I feel like I'm really coming into my own in this year. So I'm again very optimistic.
I love that. And yeah, I mean, I'm so glad that you're able to come into your own for this year and I mean truly make the most of the time that you have because the one thing about time is that as soon as it's gone.
Forever. You can't ever get it back. Yeah, I know. It's yeah, I think it's important. Again, I don't want to sound too uptight about never relaxing, but I truly do beat myself up when I don't get something done or when I'm just slacking for even a few days. I'm like, I need to get up, go do something, or go to the studio or whatever. Even just in this year, I didn't have that as much last year, but especially just the last few months, even if I've been, you know, being my own worst critic again, which has felt nice.
Well, at least you were able to, like I said, have time for yourself to, I mean, to truly refocus and and recharge, so that way you can make this year the best year yet for you.
Of course, yeah. I think it's important. It was important that I did it, but I don't want to do it again or continue to do it if that makes sense. It was a nice little reset, but now I got a few more years that I gotta not do that, which is fine. I'll take it.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense though. And like I said, I'm glad that you're able to at least use those lessons to, yeah, I mean, at least change your, your day to day a little bit, but where at least you won't burn out, but at the same time you can at least have a positive outcome.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I went to the gym for the first time in 6 months 2 days ago. So that's just that energy is coming back. I'm super sore, but just been going to the studio a lot. I have a lot of super cool, different things that I even a year ago wouldn't think that I'd be writing. So it's just, yeah, it really did, I think, play an important role in the rest of whatever I end up doing with all this.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear it. And yeah, and shifting gears a little bit to go to some of your plans for, for this year. So overall, what are some of your hopes for 2024, both personally and professionally?
Well, personally, I want to travel more. I want to get out, and although I went on some trips last year, I want to really just go and unplug in the mountains in a cabin somewhere for a few weeks, or something like that, and just really not find myself, because that's so cliche, but I do want to just pack in the car and go somewhere, and multiple times in the year, and just really find inspiration, whether that's for music or for a new way of thinking about something or whatever. Just kind of go on some sort of mystical journey like that. I also want to put out a full album, my passion project that I've been working on for 2 or 3 years, on and off, of just songs here, ideas here, and they've always been on the back burner, and I've put stuff ahead of it. But I want that to see the light of day this year, because I think it'll make some things make sense.
That makes sense. And I guess going into that a little bit, I know you said that you want this to be the year that you put out your full album. And so what makes this year 2024 significant for putting out that album?
Honestly, I wish there was a cooler reason, but it's because I didn't put it out last year, and it's close enough now where I would really be upset with myself if it didn't come out, because I really, I mean, we're doing finishing touches on it now, so there's really no reason that it wouldn't come out. But I don't know, just an album seems like a significant thing, and I take myself back to the time when I put my first album out, and just the hype around it, from even just in person, like the people that were rallying together when it came out, and in the build up and everything, and just I like making a moment like that, not not giving myself more power than I have. Obviously, the world's not going to stop, but it is really cool when a lot of people are together, and it's like kind of a community of just dropping an album, and also because I think the songs on there are super cool, and I want people to hear them in the order and not just put out singles. There might be some more singles this year, but I do want there to be a full album. It's important to me.
Yeah, and touching back a little bit. So I know that that you put out, I believe, three singles in 2023, if I remember correctly.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and so are you able to tell us a little bit about about some of the singles that you put out, and I guess why these three were the ones that you put out, changing it up a little bit.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, like I said earlier, listening to them, they're kind of all three very different, but there is a through line of, I guess, just my young adult writing style. So you can kind of tell that I wrote all of them, even though they're very different genres. But the first one I put out, well, it came out in June, I think June 1st, and it was called "Girl Next Door." Just the first song that I put out since my album, which was like a pop punk album. So I put out a in your face pop punk, like screaming song, and just a positive song, which I hadn't really done much stuff like that before. So that was nice, and yeah, people enjoyed it. It kind of refreshed me and got me back, because I just missed the pop punk scene and just going out and seeing shows and that stuff. So that kind of kept me in it by putting out music like that. And then I just a couple months later, I was in the studio, and matter of fact, it was 2 days after "Girl Next Door" came out that I wrote this song, and it was a pop song. So I took to the studio and we beefed it up and got it going, and then I put that out, and it was called "Feel This Good." and that song kind of blew up a little bit. People, it was going on all kinds of playlists on some Spotify, curated playlists, and I'm very thankful for that. I still am. That changed some things. It kind of got me in the pop scene, which is a pretty coveted niche to be in when people are putting on playlists and stuff on Spotify, because pop is huge, and I knew that going into it. But also, I enjoy making pop music. It's not just because it's super popular; it's because I just like catchy stuff and melodic tracks, and that's the genre for that for sure. And then just recently, December, I put out a song called Planet, and that's like an alternative, like kind of an indie pop sort of thing, um, with some loud, big drums. And that's sort of where I want to gravitate towards, is that sort of vibe, just super chill and still creative enough, but not too crispy and like right in your face, like down the middle pop. It was fun when I did that for one song, but I don't really want to make an album like that, if that makes sense. But yeah, long story long, those are the three songs I put out this past year.
Yeah, that is great though. And I do remember, yeah, especially for your most recent one, Planet, I do remember, listening to that as soon as it came out. And
Oh, well,
as
I
a little bit
appreciate it, man. Thank you.
of course, and yeah, as a little bit of a fun fact though, is that of course while you can find my podcast and everything like on Spotify and all the platforms, is that I had never really used my personal Spotify account, and so that was the first thing that I used it for.
Oh man.
So,
Well, I
yeah,
appreciate that. I'm honored.
yeah, I mean it was so fun being able to listen to it, and yeah, and so I guess for that one in particular, since you said that that's sort of the direction that you want to go in, but maybe not necessarily a album per se in that. So, what was sort of the inspiration behind that?
I mean, I was just having a really chill day and just relaxing and just burning incense and candles and trying to think of stuff. And I just really wanted to follow up, feel this good with another song that would get people's attention. Um, and then I stopped, I gave up. And that's exactly when the inspiration came. And I just started thinking of things and little melodies here and there. And just started playing on the piano. And then I called up Gary, my studio guy, and was like, "Yo, I got this song. We got to do it." And no joke, he said, "Okay, be here in 20 minutes and let's do it." And so I got all my stuff together and got in the car and ran over there, and we cut the whole song in like an hour, hour and a half. And then I left, and Planet was done. And it was I don't know. It's weird when you're writing songs because they really do just come and go super quickly, and you don't know what your head, like how you're going to come up with a song right before you do, and right after you have no idea how you came up with it. At least that's what I experienced. Not because, oh, it's so good, I can't believe somebody wrote this, like how did I do it, but just truly because you kind of do lock into a different headspace, and you're just a songwriter, not even just a different person for a second, because a lot of my songs are arbitrary songs. They're not about specific, necessarily like super spot on life experiences. Some are, but yeah, I think it's a different world you're in. So I don't even know exactly for Planet, like how I came up with certain parts or what I was thinking with this. Like I really just was locked in, but it was a very fun and hectic recording for that song. It was like, we got to do this and send it in right away because this is the next single, which I usually despise. Usually I'll sit on songs for a year or two and then I'm like, okay, let's roll this out. But this was like, man, I want to go in this direction. Why would I not put this out right now? So I did, and kind of rode the coattails of the last song I put out, and people enjoyed this one. So I'm happy all around.
I love it, and I hope that you have been satisfied with seeing all of the the stream numbers as they've been coming in.
Of course, yeah. I just was looking before I came on here because I people put me on some cool playlists. They put Planet on some big playlists this week, and it's almost doubled its streams just this week, and it's been out for a couple of months. So that's exciting. Just getting some new, like a new audience, which is cool, and it's just nice to when you see it. There's people listening to it, and you go on the thing and check, and there's just people like it's just cool to know that. it's kind of being spun around the world every day, which is, I don't know, it's very cool. That's the internet's a very cool place because now it lets you see all that stuff. Like even with your podcast, like I'm sure you can see the demographics and where people are from, and it's cool to be like, huh, I've never been to this place, so but people are listening to me. It's just it's honoring, to be honest. Like it's cool.
Yeah, it truly is. And yeah, especially for yeah, having done the podcast and spoken with so many people who, are in states or even countries that like I've never been to. It's like I don't know, it's something so cool and humbling about it. It's just like, wow. It's like someone really wanted to to come in and and
Yeah.
do this, and it's just amazing. And it's been fun over this past year. I've on occasion have met some podcast guests in person too. It's like, wow, this is it's still like extraordinary, and it's like it's
Yeah.
sort of star striking in a sense.
Absolutely, because these people that listen to us overseas or that come on your show, like they wouldn't know who we were if it weren't for the internet. Like if this was back in the day, like we would not know these people existed, nor would we have a platform to reach them. So it's just we live in a cool time.
We absolutely do. And of course I know that, your your singles can be streamed like on platforms such as, Spotify, and I'm sure that there are some other ones as well, I believe. But have you also been going, further than that to like some independent radio stations or to anything of that nature, or are you sticking more on the streaming front?
It's been primarily streaming, but I will say that we have been talking to a couple different independent radio stations, some college people, stuff like that, about just getting some future stuff lined up with them. So that's been exciting. I've been playing live and promoting some stuff there, which has been super cool. Um, Starting to get back into that more. I hadn't done it for like a year and a half, but then a few months ago, I started to jump back into it a little bit here and there. So that's been a nice way to kind of be like, hey, I'm doing this in real life too, not just on the internet. If you want to see, but that's been a good launching pad for consistent listeners as well because those people want to see you. Um, yeah, but mostly streaming. Obviously, it's just the way to go right now.
That makes perfect sense. And even though it's been a while since you have done a live show, have you been able to to meet some of your loyal listeners and and I guess supporters, through doing some of these live events or even just, in your everyday life?
It happens every now and then. I was in Chick-fil-A 2 weeks ago, and I went in, and everybody says something different. Like it's never. I'm not really, and it's not a good thing, but I'm not like the guy for like the music guy or whatever. Like some people know me from high school doing card tricks. Like that's the biggest thing that people stop me for, honestly, is you're the magic dude, right, from high school. And I'm like, yeah. And that's what happened at Chick-fil-A. I went to Chick-fil-A and the dude that I never seen him before, didn't look familiar, never met him, and he's like, "Hey, Magic Man." And I was like, and I turned around, he's like, "You did card tricks in high school, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, man." He's like, "What about now?" I was like, "Nah, not anymore." So sometimes it's awkward. Sometimes I don't really know what to say, and I'm not. It kind of takes me back to a different time, and I'm like, "Wait, this is where this person knows me from." But the people that have said nice things about music and when a song comes out, it's all love, and I try to tell everybody how much I appreciate it, and I really do appreciate it because it's just very again humbling to see like those numbers translated to real life and like having people that really do care and really will show up and come see you live. Like it's it's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And speaking, of of real life too, I did actually have a follow-up question to something that you just said, and then I did want to pivot a little bit. So first of all, of course, for anyone who may not have tuned into our previous discussions, of course, you've mentioned that, you used to do magic stuff, of course. And of course, while you've mentioned that you don't really um, do that now as you're primarily focused on your music, have you yeah have you ever incorporated any of your magic or other knowledge like into some of your albums?
So that's funny you asked that because interestingly enough, I've been asked to do that before. Like people have been, "Hey, I have a grad party. Can you come do magic but also sing, and I've always strayed away from that because I don't. I feel like now, and this, I don't know, it might be biting the hand that fed me back in the day, but I don't know. I think magic's a little bit cheesy now for me to be 20 and like pursuing people to come do card tricks. Like when I go to friends' houses or something, a lot of times they'll be like, "Yo, show us a card trick," and that's different. But to get dressed nice and show up somewhere and say, "Hey, can I show you a card trick?" It seems scary now at my age. So I don't know how I would even approach that. Do you have any ideas? I don't know like what I would do for that necessarily, but um, yeah, no, it's been pretty much separate completely.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense though. And yeah, it's one of the things too where you might have something that like has originally interested you and brought you into what you're doing, but at
Mm,
the same time it may be something where it's like it's a great memory and I might enjoy it in private, but
yeah,
that's not really who I am anymore.
exactly. I mean, make no mistake. If the price is right, I'll figure out how to incorporate them together, and I'll do something. But yeah, I mean, it's okay to acknowledge that something got you so far, and then move on to another thing, and it's okay.
Yeah, it definitely is. But shifting gears a little bit though, since this is our first time speaking, I actually wanted to step back a little bit. So of course, while we've spoken about your various ventures from your original YouTube days, which how long ago was it that you actually first started with YouTube?
Ah, it's been 11 years. Just way back with like stop motion animation and stuff like that, and just little. I would use Lego minifigures and make little stop motion things, and I would do it so much, and I would get so few views, and I would just be over the moon that 22 people saw this video I made, and I did that for years and years, and then I started making vlogs in like 2016, 2017 when that was the thing everybody was doing, and then disappeared for a while, and then came back with the reactions about 2 years ago. So it's had its different phases and seasons and different channels here and there, but it's been one of the only constants in my life for the last decade, which is it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, that is scary to think about. But but even going from your YouTube and your various iterations to to your music and everything in between. So while I'm sure that many of us are now even just a little bit familiar with your content, so I actually wanted to shift a little bit. So I actually want to see, so who is Max outside of just the music and the content?
I would like to. I mean, I don't know if people would agree, but I would like to think I'm pretty chill, pretty laid back. Like I'm not always the most crazy person in the room, but I don't know. There's energy. I enjoy a good time. I like to throw any excuse to throw a party or you know anything like that, and just have fun. And I do love listening to music, which I don't think is something that a lot of people would. I don't know. They might, but I definitely like sitting there and listening to music and just picking it apart and listening to certain things and then maybe incorporating an idea into this and that. So it really is always just my head's always filled with music. So people that follow me online or that have seen my stuff, that pretty much is who I am. Even like this, I'm always pretty much just like this. I don't know. There's yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's describing myself is I don't know is interesting. I don't want to say anything good or bad, but I okay I will say this. I'm very my mind is interesting because I'm very driven to what I decide I'm gonna do, which is usually a good thing. I have that addictive personality. Again, usually good. And if I start something or if I get a liking to something, I'm just gonna stick with it or try to be the best at it. So I am sort of competitive with myself.
Yeah, that's definitely like I said, interesting to know. And yeah, and would you say that I don't know there are any misconceptions that people have from having viewed your content online that differs from your actual personality?
Uh, Personality wise, I'm not sure. I don't know. People think I'm a lot. Like people have said on the videos that I'm a lot funnier than I think I actually am. I I think just I don't know, but yeah, I don't. I mean, lifestyle wise, like it's funny because I used to be dumb back in the day, and I would post videos with ridiculous like watches and stuff like that, and just be in people's face about what I was doing. And so obviously that kind of established this false narrative, but people would not. People don't like when I complain about stuff. Even people that are somewhat that are I'm friends with, they're like, "Man, you can say that, but like I do anything. Like I wish we could switch." And I'm like, I don't think that most people would want to be me if that makes sense. Like it's kind of there. It's not all it's cracked up to be all the time, and also it takes a lot to get to certain places. So I think a misconception is that I'm staying afloat and doing all right, and that means that there's no problems ever and everything's always fine. Like I kind of needed last year off, even just for mental health reasons, and just what was going on in my life. I just yeah, there's it's not. I mean, not to be dark about it, but yeah, that's something that I don't think people would guess.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense though. And yeah, and I mean it definitely is something, having, been on people's screens, or, or being a part of the audio people are listening to for, for you now 11 years. And
Yeah.
so do you remember how you used to do stuff even before all of that, before you were, somewhat of a mini public figure?
What do you mean? How did I used to do what? Just think about things.
So yeah, with having done, you know, with having made content,
Hmm.
for 11 years now, for well over half your life.
Yeah.
So like, do you remember how it used to be before you like were constantly making content and always on a, on a grind of having to do something?
I do. And I won't take the 11 years part because I was 9 and I don't really remember much about that. But I'd say the past like 3 or 4 years when I started making music and that type of thing. Yeah, before it was kind of, I was really just trying to get my name in everybody's face as much as possible and impress people and do the card tricks and do the whatever it may be and post the videos and just get notoriety in any way that I possibly could. I wanted to be famous and didn't even know why, which was kind of funny. And then I grew up a little bit and became an adult and got a different mentality. And I was like, okay, I can still work super hard, but let's at least make it somewhat good and digestible. So I think before it was just a lot of carelessness and just anything to get people on board. And now it's like, all right, there's a couple people on board, so let's actually make something worth consuming, whatever media that ended up being. It was just sort of that was one of the switches I think that flipped was let's keep the people we have instead of trying to get new people so quickly.
Yeah, and so I guess going into, the rest of 2024 to come. So what would you say would be the biggest shift that you'd have now, going from sort of your break year, so to speak,
Hmm.
into, this new year that you have sort of everything lined up and that you're getting back into the groove of things, or rather finding a new groove?
Yes. So the biggest difference you said?
Yeah, so I guess whether it's, mindset wise or
Mhm.
otherwise, how would you say that you plan to sort of shift everything from how you had done in the past, if at all?
Yeah, no, I think there definitely is room for a healthy shift. I think there's also um, some things that I want to keep exactly the same or that aren't important enough to change. Um, but I think that my workflow needs to be healthier. I need to be more organized. I just need to have my life together a little more, and and because there'll be times where I spend a week just absolutely slammed because I didn't plan anything out, and then the next week where I'm sitting around trying to find something to do. And so I think I could just have a better balance with that. And that's pretty basic. And I really have no excuse for that not already being the case. But I'm going to do that for sure this year. Um, yeah, I think some things that should stay the same are just the frequency that I'm writing music, if possible. I can't really predict or force that. So that's the thing that's kind of a bummer is you can't really say, all right, Tuesday at noon, I'm going to sit down and write this song and then I'm going to do this. You can, but it'll kind of sound like a forced Tuesday at noon song. So it is sort of unpredictable and it creeps up. So it's that's going to be tough to navigate at times, I'm sure, especially if I'm trying to be regimented with my schedule and working out and everything. But I think that, yeah, that's basically what I would change, what I would keep the same.
So and taking that though, yeah, I really like how, like I said, that you're truly taking, truly the lessons that you've learned and trying to just do a little bit better for 2024. And I think that's all we can do really. And I think that a lot of times we often see everything that we have in front of us, and it's a lot. But I'm glad at least that you're sticking you know with what you know and what you enjoy, but not as much of the stuff that you don't enjoy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think there's definitely a balance, but I've always kind of been like, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody, including yourself, do what you want to do and don't do what you don't want to do. Like if it's not a matter of keeping a roof over your head and keeping food in your mouth, don't do the extra stuff if you don't want to do it. And I've lived that to maybe too much of an extreme before, and I'm trying to do a little better about it now. But I mean, I think if something's important enough for you to want to do it and like think about it, like just go for it, whatever that may be. And I know that this year I want to do certain things and play live a certain amount of times and put out a certain amount of music and make some YouTube videos and just do all the things. And I'm just gonna commit to it. And I know, especially putting it out in the world, like I'm gonna hold myself to it.
I love it. And Max, for anyone that wants to tune into your music and anything else that you do, where are the best places for them to tune in to find you?
Um, Instagram, I'm posting stuff on there, updates. I have a channel where I can post updates in the chat, and that's just the Max LeVan on Instagram. Uh, the same for Twitter, now X, same stuff, updates, everything like that. And then yeah, YouTube is just my name, and same for all music platforms, streaming. Um, and yeah, I'm putting an album out this year. Mark my words. So, especially by the time this comes out, it might even be announced.
That's outstanding. And I definitely, am very glad to support you and the amazing content that you're doing, Max.
I appreciate you, Brandon. I really do, and thank you for having me on. And yeah, I wish you all the best until we talk again, man.
Yes, I definitely am excited for that. But before we close out, though, I did want to allow for you to actually close out our episode with whether it be a life lesson, inspirational thought, or whatever the case may be. The floor is all yours.
Hmm. I got to make it something good. I think. Well, I guess I'd say what I was just saying before about just take a step back sometimes and just know that like certain decisions are not as impactful as you think, and so just like do what you want to do and don't do what you don't want to do with certain. I mean, not like big life decisions, but if you want to go take a walk, but you're like a little lazy, but you probably should just go. Just commit one way or the other things, and if there's a project you're working on, you got to either decide if you're going to do it or you're not going to do it. But it's unfair to yourself to halfway do stuff. So do it or don't. That's I guess my advice. If you're going to do something, do it really well.
I absolutely love it. Thank you so much, Max, as always, for being on here, being such an amazing supporter. I always appreciate your support.
Thank you, man. I appreciate your support as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And until next time, have an amazing day and be sure to tune into the Tansson Talk Show every week as we continue on our mission to bring people together. I'll see you
Yes,
next time. Take care.
subscribe, guys, subscribe.
Absolutely. I'll see you next time.